January 12th work session meeting. First item, can I have an approval for the previous work session's minutes? Motion has been approved. Can we please vote? Motion passes. Before I turn it over, excuse me, before I turn it over to Collie, just want to mention that Jennifer Ives is at the hospital with her father and should be here shortly. So just wanted to give everyone an update on that. Collie?
Thank you, Chairman Pond. Good afternoon, everyone. I have two items today. The first one, I'd like to ask Daniel Heck to come up and take the microphone. Daniel, as you know, is our Deputy Chief Mechanical Officer. He's going to provide an update on upcoming work that Georgia Power and the city's Department of Watershed Management will perform. He's also going to talk about the impact on our streetcar operations and, of course, MARTA's coordination and mitigation plans. Also with Daniel, for support, we've got Mr. Brad Hill, the account manager, Mr. Reggie Roby, the external affairs officer, and Mr. Delicio Spencer, the project manager, all from Georgia Power. So welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for your support. The floor is yours, Daniel.
Thank you, Collie. Good afternoon, board members. My name is Daniel Hecht. I'm the Deputy Chief Mechanical Officer, and today I'll be giving the board notice of an upcoming Georgia Power project that will impact streetcar operations through the downtown area. Georgia Power has many underground transmission lines that feed power to various buildings and systems throughout the downtown Atlanta area. These underground lines sometimes fail and require repair. Georgia Power has found a potential failure with an underground transmission line adjacent to our streetcar tracks between Cortland and Peachtree Center Streets on Auburn Avenue, and I will show a map on the next slide where the construction site will be. To repair the underground line, Georgia Power will need to excavate a pit approximately 12 feet by 8 feet in size, approximately 30 feet deep, after which they will horizontally bore until they reach the transmission line and can conduct repairs. Due to the size and depth of the access area near our trackway and the weight of the streetcar, Georgia Power has determined that we cannot safely run the streetcar adjacent to their construction site, nor would we want to due to soil instability. They have requested MARTA close our streetcar for approximately 4 months, and this is subject to change based on a final construction schedule approved by both MARTA and the City of Atlanta. The repairs needed because of environmental concern due to the line defect, stray current concerns, and power reliability concerns in the downtown area. Of note, this transmission line feeds Grady Hospital. At the end of the presentation, I'll discuss next steps in this closure. This slide shows the overall streetcar alignment with the red box in the upper section, the area in which the Georgia Power 115 kV repair will occur. This is our westbound track. There's two parallel tracks. The upper one is the westbound track. The lower is the eastbound track. The construction site is on Auburn Avenue between Peachtree Center Avenue Northeast and Cortland Street Northeast. On a related note, the Department of Watershed Management is also working with MARTA to conduct sewer projects on the eastbound track, that's the lower track here, which are the two red boxes on the bottom of the map. We will try to time these repairs with the Georgia Power shutdown. Here is a more detailed map provided by Georgia Power, which shows the closure on Auburn Avenue. This is a 24/7 closure of the eastbound lane of traffic. The westbound lane will remain open to automobile use with traffic control, but heavy traffic, including our streetcar vehicle, will be limited through the construction site. And to orient you all, this is Auburn Avenue going east to west. Peachtree Center Avenue Northeast is to the west, and Cortland Street Northeast is to the east. Today is an advisory presentation to publicly inform the Board of Directors that this project is coming. As I stated, we don't have a firm construction start date yet, but Georgia Power's target is to start in 2025. We will work with Georgia Power to time the closure so impacts to the streetcar service for events are minimized. And we, of course, jointly want to ensure this work is done prior to the World Cup in 2026. MARTA does have service continuity plans utilizing the shuttles shown in the photo here, as we did a few years ago. We are refining these plans in preparation for this closure. MARTA has a detailed review and approval process with Kerry Rocha's team that occurs alongside for work that occurs along our wayside. MARTA infrastructure staff are coordinating document exchange, construction plans, and reviews with Georgia Power. We are coordinating other work to coincide with this, such as the sewer repairs I mentioned earlier, but also tree work, alignment projects, and other major maintenance activities along the streetcar alignment. And next, we will firm up a construction schedule with Georgia Power and begin notifying the public and our jurisdictional partners of the planned service changes. Thank you, and myself or one of the Georgia Power representatives will answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Daniel. Are there any questions for Mr. Heck?
Just to be clear, the power isn't related to the operation of the streetcar. This is a general repair done by Georgia Power for all of their customers that require
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, this is not a MARTA-specific feeder for our overhead lines or our third rail power.
Okay.
Yes.
And also regarding the sewer work, this is just something that DWM is having to do, not only here, but probably throughout the entire city, and it just happens to affect our operation of the streetcar.
That's correct.
So
Yes.
we're trying to time it all so that it's just interruption for one period of time.
That is correct.
All right,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Mr. Frison?
Yes, so along the east and west line, are they gonna be disturbing the tracks when they're doing these projects? Will the tracks come out?
Great question. The excavation will not be within the embedded trackway of the streetcar alignment. It will be adjacent to it, but due to the 12 foot by 8 foot by 30 feet deep depth, the weight of the streetcar and the soil instability, we can't run the heavy streetcar right next to the pit. But it will not affect our the actual infrastructure of the trackway.
Okay, and so when the project is finished, we should be able to just resume where we are with in terms of operations?
Yes.
Understanding? Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on, fellas.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, gentlemen, for supporting. MARTA certainly understands the need to undertake critical infrastructure work in support of operational environments. And with that, we're going to move on to the next topic, which really we've got it entitled, I believe it's Service from the Shakira Concert. And joining us are Jorge Bernard, the Interim Deputy Chief of Rail Operations, Wendy Sexton, Senior Manager of Track Allocation and Operational Scheduling, AJ Joshi, the Director of Expansion Program Management, and they'll be followed by Mr. George Wright, the Chief Operating Officer. I'll set the stage by saying many of the board will recall that in October of '24, we met on this topic about single tracking after the Pride Parade, and MARTA had failed to provide the level of service that we like to provide and have become accustomed to providing for special events. We did a lot of lessons learned out of that event, and here we are 8 months later with a report of something having gone wrong. So I thought it was prudent, not only because there's some board members that didn't get the benefit of that first report on single tracking, but also to address what actually happened here after the Shakira concert. So this, I promise, is an abbreviated version of the single tracking presentation, but we're here and subject to questions should you have them afterwards. So I'll start with Jorge.
Thank you, Mr. Greenwood. Good morning. Again, my name is Jorge Bernard, Interim Deputy Chief for Rail Operations, and good morning to all the board members. Let me start by talking about what is single tracking. Single tracking is when we run trains in both directions in a single track in a particular section of track. For this specific scenario that you see on the presentation here, I'm gonna go over what the single tracking is. On the left, you see the Garnett interlocking, and on the right, you see the Civic Center interlocking. And in between those two interlockings, you see a dashed green line. That is a section of track that would be out of service for this particular scenario. Along that, you see a red dotted line on the opposite track. That is the direction of the trains would be moving going northbound, utilizing the southbound trackway. Single tracking is an industry standard utilized by many agencies. Single tracking is a schedule when work has to be performed on the trackway next to the tracks where the personnel would be working so close that the tracks that is causing a safety risk, or when work is being performed above the tracks. Single tracking, as I mentioned, is an industry standard used by many other agencies, such as CTA in Chicago, Maryland Transit Administration in Baltimore, when MARTA in Washington, D.C. and Sound Transit in Seattle, for example. When single tracking is not an option, the alternative is to implement a shutdown, suspending rail service for a station or multiple stations, and implementing a bus bridge like we did for the work at the airport. Now I would like to introduce Wendy Sexton, Senior Manager of Track Allocation.
Good afternoon. My name is Wendy Sexton. I am the Senior Manager of Track Allocation and Operations Scheduling. This slide you see up in front of you outlines when we implement single tracking to balance service reliability with essential maintenance and capital projects. We schedule weeknights after 9:30 p.m. when ridership is low, enabling critical maintenance and upgrades. Weekends offer flexible windows from 7.5 hours to 54.5 hours, from Friday 9:30 p.m. to Monday 4 a.m., using low traffic periods for major projects. On the chart, you'll see the green indicates the weeknights. The blue is the weekend windows, and the red will show you when we will terminate single tracking to support an event. This slide outlines our strategic framework for managing single tracking, ensuring reliable transit services during events while advancing critical maintenance and capital projects. Since the 2024 Pride event, this table has guided our decision-making to balance rider needs with our infrastructure goals. Holidays and major events like Juneteenth or FIFA Cup, no single tracking is scheduled on those event days to support seamless rider access. Large crowds, like Atlanta United or major concerts, trigger a system-wide suspension of single tracking before, during, and until crowds clear, effectively managing peak demands. Mid-level crowds, like Mercedes-Benz concerts and events, we avoid single tracking at the stations serving that event, before, during, and until crowds clear, while allowing single tracking in other areas of our system. Small crowds, like some concerts and local festivals, single tracking does proceed. The Shakira concert on June 2nd was classified as a small event with projected attendance at 11,000, and our data reflected 1,378 exits. Special cases like road closures, we will consider terminating any single tracking activities. This table serves as a guide, not a rigid rule. During our weekly track allocation meetings, we evaluate each event's specifics, ridership data, event scale, and single tracking locations, enabling precise, real-time adjustments as redirecting single tracking to unaffected lines. Rail operations bolsters this strategy by deploying insert trains and staging standby trains to manage crowd surges efficiently. From October 13th, 2024 to June 2nd, spanning 233 days, we supported 564 events across 202 days. We executed 386 single tracking outages spanning 204 days. Reflecting focused maintenance and capital program schedule, this data-driven balance included 115 State Farm events, underscoring our commitment to a resilient transit network. I'll now turn it over to AJ.
All right, thank you, Wendy, and good afternoon. My name is AJ Joshi. I'm the Director of the Expansion Program Management Office, and I'm going to kind of go over why we single track. So across MARTA's entire capital program, certain upgrades and construction activities require access to MARTA's trackway. With MARTA being over 40 years in age, it's imperative that we actively work on projects that keep our rail system at a state of good repair. Ultimately, this helps us attain our goal to maintain safe, reliable service and a comfortable rider experience. Although the most efficient way to construct or to perform construction activities would be if both tracks were out of service, we understand that this would greatly impact rail service. The use of single tracking allows for construction efforts to proceed safely and efficiently concurrently with rail service operations. So on the slide here, you'll see some of the ongoing and upcoming capital improvement projects that will require single tracking restrictions include station renovation program, stations at, we'll see work ongoing at Airport and at 5 Point Station, and upcoming at Garnett and Art Center stations. Currently, we are going to be testing our brand new trains. The CQ400 rail car testing project is ongoing. You'll see impacts. That's between Lenox Station and Chambly Station. So there'll be single tracking along that corridor. And we're also going to see track improvement initiatives. This includes fastener replacements. We're going to have some track resurfacing project and also double crossover replacements. So with that, I would like to introduce Mr. George Wright, our Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you, AJ, and good afternoon, Board. Now to recap, we single track to ensure we can keep our wayside infrastructure and the platform areas of our station in a state of good repair while we pursue our organizational ethos of safe, clean, and reliable. Single tracking does support both operations and capital program activities, and it's the most effective rail service continuity strategy for our system when wayside work is required. Accordingly, when we consider the need to single track while supporting special events, we first seek to acquire accurate forecasts from venues, event organizers, and our own archive ridership data. Additionally, we utilize a decision matrix as a guide balancing all considerations. Second, we work hard to create effective plans that mitigate the inconveniences inherent to single tracking while simultaneously inserting extra train service to increase frequencies outside of the single tracking zone. Now finally, we endeavor to execute the service plans with excellence in mind. Ultimately, we want the MARTA experience to positively complement the rider's intended destination and/or event experience. Now, it's important to note that the safety-centric and specialized train movements that come with single tracking is only a part of the service continuity strategy. Rail operations must also follow single tracking operating procedures to make sure that impacted stations are prepared with deployed collateral, engaged customer service, and wayfinding support to ensure we direct our riders to the correct platforms while effectively communicating to riders that could be easily confused. Specific to the Shakira concert last week, the single tracking operating procedures for stations just referenced did not happen at 5 Points. Access to the northbound platform at 5 Points was not cordoned off as it should have been, and collateral advising of single tracking with instructions directing riders to the southbound platform was not deployed. Unfortunately, by not following established procedures, we did confuse and frustrate some of our northbound riders at 5 Points after the concert. To address, we've assessed what occurred, implemented corrective actions with immediate effect. A couple of corrective actions of note include deploying more staff during commingled single tracking and special events, along with enhancing our post-event review of service delivery performance. Finally, the responsible operations leader from the June 2nd event is being held accountable. To close, we are prepared for the special and large-scale events before us, to include 6 FIFA Club World Cup matches, the Peachtree Road Race, 4 Beyonce concerts, and other events scheduled over the upcoming summer season. Thank you for your attention. Chair Ide, I return the matter back to you for consideration.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wright, and I do appreciate understanding the more context to this. I see Ms. Powers has her hand up first.
Thank you for providing context. I don't think any of us disagree that single tracking is an industry standard or needed. My concern is I'm looking at the chart that was implemented, and I had some questions this time last year too about this, and we've characterized small crowds with single tracking can commence of 18,000 less, and I know that the number was that it was about 11,000 people who encountered the Shakira concert, and of course we want, to the extent we can, everybody on our train. But unfortunately what happened is a deterrent potentially for people using that in the future. How many concerts, if you know, are taking place at these small events, how many times do we run up against, okay, we need to do single tracking, but it's the same time as these small events? Do you know? Or what you've classified as small crowds?
I would say they happen quite regularly. Again, the difference between what happened with Shakira and what typically happens is that rail leadership does what they're supposed to do at 5 Points, which is the nexus of our system and the linchpin of being able to get people north and south after they leave the Dome complex.
What are we doing in advance of these events? Not just waiting for people to get on the platform. You know, I read the AJC articles. I know several of my board members, and it's been a topic of conversation. What are we doing in advance to communicate what our plans are instead of we've got full platforms full of people not knowing what's going on with the delay?
What we should do is leverage what we have on our website. We should push out content via social media, and then the collateral that I spoke about in the stations would be deployed. So that's A-frames talking about what's going to happen, making sure that we have staff that provide wayfinding direction, so that a lot of the individuals or people attending events in that entertainment district, they might not be regular MARTA commuters. Right. And heck, on occasion I've gotten twisted up in 5 Points when transferring lines. So it's important that we have those resources out there to guide people appropriately. And then leveraging our systems. There are PA announcements where our staff are engaging and talking to people. That's what should happen. And we should be able to readily perform well with small crowds.
And I guess my final question is, with the upcoming 5 Points rolling closures, depending on where we are and where we stand in construction, and what we face with ridership issues, what is the plan to make sure that communication, once that fully kicks off, is there a plan in place, and what is it to communicate for this single tracking? I mean, because my concern is the one time we get an opportunity to get a new MARTA rider, if this is their experience, I understand that they don't want to ride again.
Thank you for the question. We do not plan for those activities at the plaza and concourse level at 5 Points to impact rail operations at the platform levels. Again, like I said, it's just incumbent upon us to make sure that we push out all of the information we can. I would also add that we're always looking at how we can do better. One of the conversations that, in light of this, that have been started is, let's take another look at what we do in that downtown hub. So from Garnett to Civic Center, from Vine City over to Georgia State, and let's see what tweaks we might need to make.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr.
Wright. Mr. Durrett.
Thank you, George. So what we experienced was an operational failure, which we're addressing.
Yes, sir.
Responsibility has been taken. There is no question in your mind that we need to rethink this strategic single tracking planning guidelines matrix to maybe modify numbers or that sort of thing, so that our SOP for single tracking might change depending upon the size of the crowd? I'm curious.
Yes, I will say again that it's certainly, in light of this, I think we need to always be looking at this with trying to grow ridership in mind, how we can do even better, acknowledging, there are things that we might not know or we might not be acknowledging in the moment. So the short answer to your question is yes, we're going to look at this.
Thank you, George.
Ms. Pollack.
Thanks for this. I think to Jim's point, I know MARTA is already involved in this, but GDOT is working on updating their special events playbook, as they call it, to look at, it's traffic operations, but it's also really hinges on effective use of MARTA. And I do think that could be a good opportunity to plug in and an opportunity to relook at this and understand if it makes sense from that perspective, so that we're really putting all the modes together when we think about that. that's sort of a note. I think I appreciate that you've broken down exactly what's happened. It's very clear, and what you're doing to ensure that it doesn't happen again. I would say my concern a little bit also comes from the way that we handled it with the media. That when I read the AJC article, I wish that perhaps some of the responsibility had been taken for what had happened, because I want our writers to trust us and acknowledge that sometimes we make mistakes, right? We're human, and it is ultimately this entire system is based on humans as well, and we do make mistakes, and I think it does a disservice to the trust of our ridership to say that it went according to plan.
Noted.
Ms. Scott.
In regards to the crowd size, is the amount of people that you're referencing, is it a industry standard or a MARTA standard?
Yeah, this is a MARTA standard based on, you know, the attributes of our system.
Right, but I guess my question, just so you understand, my question was, other transit agencies that have also large events, is there a standard that has been utilized by APTA, or are we strictly saying MARTA based upon Atlanta?
Yeah, what we presented to you is MARTA standard.
So we do have an opportunity to reevaluate.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Wright? All right, thank you so much.
Well, let me just jump in on a couple things. So, yeah, George makes a point that when we talk about the industry standard and when we single track and the fact that we do single track, that is based largely on the industry. So if you have a heavy rail system and if you have a decent ridership that needs to be accommodated when those things happen, you make a decision between whether or not you're going to single track or if you're going to not run trains at all, try to replace them with buses. That is an option, and MARTA exercised that, if you recall, during the airport renovation. That's a heavy lift. It's very expensive. We actually had to use resources that were not ours, and that was even contentious in and of itself. And so generally speaking, we try to use the trains because it's a better way of accommodating our customers. In terms of the exact numbers that MARTA uses to decide when those thresholds are met, it is a MARTA-centric number because you really can't use another city's numbers because another city has different origins and destinations, different habits and patterns, different concerts, different. So it really is. You can take a blueprint, but you really do have to distill it down to not only what we have on paper, but as Wendy said, we do a manual lift almost every night based on the exact event. This team actually calls the event venues and figures out if it's going to be a full rotating stage or a half a stage, and you get very finite, I guess is the word I'm looking for, in terms of trying to assess your own specific ridership. And then I want to say that I appreciate that the media picked this up, and I also appreciate that the media was balanced in recognizing that this is an agency that is running single tracking very often. Wendy's numbers, when I first heard them, were astonishing, that in the past 8 months, over 560 or thereabouts events have been served. And on most of those nights, some single tracking or another, because of the reasons that AJ has mentioned, has been going on. So when you think about the number of times that it hasn't gone well as compared to the number of times that it has, I appreciate the balance, and I appreciate the reporting that says, yeah, we are imperfect, but more times than not, we get it right. And so I think what I want to really reiterate here is that MARTA is not trying to be defensive. MARTA is happy to be well represented in terms of how often we get it right, and then we're then able to hone in on those areas that we got wrong. And to hear Mr. Wright speak, hone in we have and hone in we will to achieve continuous improvement on this matter.
And in reference to that, that was the purpose of my question, was to say it was not written in stone by industry, and that we do have the opportunity to adjust our service based upon where we are and what we expect here in Atlanta.
Perfectly put.
Well, not only Atlanta, but all of our
Yeah,
jurisdictions.
yeah. Thank you.
Clayton.
Mr. Sagabe.
Just a quick question. Given we're single tracking so often and we're talking about new trains, and I know a new train control system, once we have a new train control system, will single tracking efficiency look similar to as it does today, or will we be more effective or have more throughput in single tracking with the train control system we're putting in?
Yeah, the beauty of communication-based train control is that you can run tighter headways. So yes, we would expect some improved efficiency and abilities to, operate with that, type of train control system.
Perfect. And what's the timing on it, just roughly, the train control system?
We are pre-designed, so
Yeah.
I
it's a
would
long
be
time.
It
speculating right now.
could be
It's-
8 years out.
Yeah,
5 to 8 years out.
probably.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. I don't see any other questions. And Mr. Greenwood, do you have anything more on your report?
I just want to go over some upcoming events. There's the APTA Transit Board Members Seminar that's happening in Kansas City on July 19th. APTA Transform in Boston on Sunday, September 14th. We also have your regular board committee and board meeting schedule, as well as the Riders Advisory Council in the atrium on Wednesday, July 2nd, and the MAC committee meeting on Tuesday, July 8th. With that, I will return the floor to you, Chair Ide.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hunt, do we have anything for executive session today?
We do. We have a litigation matter for executive session today.
All right, may I have a motion and a second? All right, I see Ms. Powers, Ms. Hardage, everybody in favor? Going to executive session? All right, that's everybody. So we will go into executive session to hear a litigation matter. So I'm going to go ahead and call to order the June 12th, 2025 MARTA Board of Directors meeting. Mr. Hunt, did we have any public comments to report via email or voicemail?
We have no voicemail public comment. We had one public comment via email via the MARTA public inbox regarding bus network redesign, and specifically Route 30 bus, which you will all receive.
All right. Thank you so much. We will move on to our in-person public comment. The public will not be allowed to yield or donate time to other speakers. The public comment portion of the meeting will not exceed 45 minutes. If the 45-minute time limit is reached before public comments are completed, public comment will be suspended and the board meeting will commence. Public comments will resume at the end of the board meeting. I just have one, Mr. Hunt. Is that all you've received?
That is correct.
Okay. So we have Mr. Patrick Waldron first, so you are welcome to come up to the podium.
Good afternoon, and thank you for listening to my comments. My name is Patrick Waldron. I'm 79 years old, resident of Inman Park, and I'm a bona fide Atlanta native, and I've been a fan and patron of public transit in Atlanta since I was a babe in arms, because my mom used to ride me on the Westview streetcar. I rode many miles on the trackless trolleys going to grammar school and high school. As a federal employee, I rode the East Line for many years, logged many miles on that. I'm a big fan of the Atlanta streetcar. In fact, I was on the inaugural run, so that's how big a trolley nerd I am. But to get to the point, and I might be beating a dead horse, but I'm truly dismayed of the decision to pause the East Side streetcar extension. It's just a shame that after so many years of planning and I guess millions spent on that planning effort, that we're pausing that, apparently in favor of some options that to me don't appear to be really bona fide transit. And I know this is not MARTA, but apparently the Beltline wants to inaugurate some kind of minivan shuttle service from MARTA stations to the Beltline. I'm not sure why this is a demonstration, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Atlanta we've been doing buses for over 100 years, so I'm not sure what there is to demonstrate in that. Anyway, as somebody said, just my opinion, I could be wrong. And by the way, these are my opinions. I'm not representing any group, just myself. The other thing is that I appear to be out of time. Could I have about a minute more? As far as more MARTA and the bus route reorganization, I'm concerned not only with Inman Park in that area, but also the rest of Atlanta. I'm just very concerned of the delay in implementing the BRT to Summerhill and also on Campbellton Road. I hope we can put the pedal to the metal on those projects. If we're really concerned about underserved populations, let's really have at it. And thank you for
Thank you so much. All right. That concludes our public comment for today. Can I please have a motion to approve the May 8th, 2025 board meeting minutes and the May 9th, 2025 special called board meeting minutes? And a second. And if there's no discussion, everybody please vote. All right, the minutes are approved. Our first board committee report will be the business management report from Mr. Pond.
Madam Chair, the Business Management Committee met on Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, and approved the following resolutions. A, resolution approving the operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2026. B, resolution authorizing the award of a contract for information technology visibility software assets and license management, IFB B50645. C, resolution authorizing the award of a contract for maintenance, support, and replacement of public address and electronic signs, IFB B50464. Resolution D, authorizing an award of a contract for the procurement of software, maintenance, and support for Geotech closed circuit television camera systems and licenses, IFB 50578A. Resolution E, authorizing the award for the procurement of specialized professional consulting services by letter of agreement, L50556. F, resolution authorizing a modification in contractual authorization for maintenance and support of the Oracle database, ERP, and ID management licenses. That's P27978. And finally, resolution authorizing the award of a contract utilizing the state of Georgia contracts for the purchases of devices and services for wireless unlimited services, RFPP P50697. I request approval of these resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Pond. Do we have a second? Everybody can vote. All right, these 7 resolutions pass. Our next committee report comes from Mr. Zagabe, our Planning and Capital Programs.
All right, thank you very much. Madam Chair, the Planning and Capital Programming Committee met on Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, and approved the following resolutions. A, resolution authorizing award of a contract utilizing the General Services Administration, GSA contracts for real estate lease and parcel management software, RFPP P50712. And B, resolution authorizing the approval of the Next Gen Bus Network related services, service modifications, and infrastructure improvements. I request approval of these resolutions.
Thank you. May we have a second? And everybody vote. All right, these 2 resolutions have passed.
Perfect. Thank you. And the committee also received the following briefings: I-285 Express Lanes Transit Study Update, as well as South Broad Street / Garnett Station Plaza renovation. Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Operations and Safety, which will be delivered by Ms. Scott today.
Madam Chair, the Operations and Safety Committee met on Thursday, and approved the following resolution. Resolution authorizing the award of a single source contract for mobile field force training and equipment, RFPP P50691. I request approval of this resolution.
Thank you. May we have a second? And everybody vote. All right, the resolution passes.
Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you so much, and we are going to stay with Ms. Scott for External Relations.
Madam Chair, the External Relations Committee met on Thursday, May 22nd, 2025, and received the following briefings. Results of a public hearing on fiscal year 26 budget and final Next Gen Bus Network service modifications. Rider stories, the power of user-generated content in transit. Madam Chair, this concludes the External Relations report.
Thank you so much, and we will wrap it up with audit with Ms. Hardage.
Madam Chair, the Audit Committee met on Thursday, May 15th, 2025, and received the following briefings. MARTA, fiscal year 25, external audit engagement. B, internal audit activity, quarter 3, fiscal year 25. Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Mr. Hunt, do we have anything else?
We do. I have a motion for settlement of a litigated matter. I would need a motion to move to approve a workers' compensation claim settlement with Edward Milano in the amount of $250,000.
All right. Second from Mr. Durrett. Everybody in favor? All right. That is everybody. The motion passes.
I have no other matters, Madam Chair. I have no other matters, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Anything else from the board today? There are no further public comments, and so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. All righty. Tyreen can head towards vacation.